Hi, it's Lerald, and we've got a big update on how to play Protection Warrior in the War Within Season 3 for you here today. So let's just start with a sales pitch here. Prot Warrior is insanely tanky, the damage is the best among all 6 tanks, it is fun to play, it's pretty simple, you will have an easier time finding groups as a warrior, and your healers will love you. Sunset likes playing with my warrior because she can mostly ignore my health pool, which gives her more time to contribute damage and heal DPS who stand in fire. And that's great. So let's get into it, but first be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join our Discord as well. We're over 1,200 members and still growing, so come join the community. I'll go ahead and start with the hero talents. So previously Colossus, in Season 2, Colossus was really like the big go-to. It has the big cooldown Demolish, kind of has a slower playstyle. It's fun and crunchy and satisfying, but with the current state of tier sets, Mountain Thane is really just the better option for both Mythic Plus and Raid. And there's really not anything wrong with that. You know, it is faster, it generates a lot more rage, it kind of feels better, at least me, it feels better. But I think generally speaking, people are happier playing Mountain Thane, so it's kind of a big part of the reason for Warrior's huge resurgence in this patch in the first place. The fun spec is good again, now the class feels good. And Mountain Thane does have a lot going on for it. Out of the 3 choice nodes, you have Flashing Skies, gives you a lot more Thunder Blasts. That's kind of the whole point of the hero talent spec in the first place. There's a lot of different synergies with that. You get Burst of Power chances, which feel great, getting to Shield Slam 3 globals in a row. That also triggers more Thunder Blasts, which feels good. You get Thunder Blast built in whenever you press Avatar. You get Lightning Strikes, giving you a chance to trigger Avatar. You just have lots and lots of procs feeding into each other. So in terms of the 3 talents that you kind of have a choice node on, you're going to run the same ones for all situations. You're going to take Flashing Skies because it gives you more Thunder Blasts. You're going to take Thorum's Might because it makes those Lightning Strikes generate more rage and also gives you more execute damage. Revenge damage isn't bad either. And then keep your feet on the ground. You know, it's a bit of damage reduction. Actually, it's quite a bit of damage reduction. You do Thunder Blast somewhat often, and 8% damage reduction is not a small amount. And then the alternatives and all those spots are just like pretty weak, to be real. So that's really it. And technically, there is a 4th choice node here between Stormbolts and Storm Shield. Neither of these are really all that impactful. Stormbolts gives you a little bit of extra crowd control, makes Stormbolt be a longer cooldown, and the 2-second extra stun that it throws around is almost more like an annoyance, like it puts stuff on the stun DR, a little annoying. So you can take Storm Shield even if you don't have Intervene, just to not have that bunch of downsides happening. But I don't know, it's like a free stun. I take it for playing with groups, and then for raid, you're probably not gonna ever use Stormbolt, so Storm Shield's literally better than nothing, so might as well take it. No, as I mentioned, the tier set is a big part of the reason why Mountain Thane is so good again. So just to kind of take a look at the 2-piece and 4-piece, the 2-piece makes it so that when you get those Thunder Blast procs, which you get somewhat often, you have a chance to call down Ionizing Strikes. These just do damage, right? That's fine. The 4-piece makes it so that they do a lot more damage, and they guarantee a charge of Thunder Blast, and they make your next Thunder Blast do more damage. So as you can see, there's just this perfect like circle in between the 2-piece and 4-piece where when you're Thunder Blasting, which is happening fairly often even without the 4-piece, and considerably more often once you have it, you're triggering Ionizing Strikes, which then immediately trigger a Thunder Blast, and then repeat, repeat, repeat. And then that has really good synergy with the rest of your talent tree, with things like Flashing Skies, causing a Lightning Strike to happen, Lightning Strikes then triggering bursts of power, which then feeds back into getting more Thunder Blasts. So it's just like this really nice positive feedback loop out of the tier set and the hero talent tree that really works well together. In terms of the talents you want to run, the left-hand tree is a pretty standard setup. You're taking a lot of really valuable stuff in here. Shockwave and Rumbling Earth gives you a great AoE crowd control that's on a pretty short cooldown. Rallying Cry is like the one defensive cooldown you have for the group, and it's not amazing, but it isn't bad. Avatar, especially in conjunction with Unstoppable Force, gives you that really satisfying playstyle that I can kind of demonstrate here. You know, or Thunderclap, some other skill, Thunderclap, some other skill. You know, if I were on a dummy, it'd be a little easier to Thunderclap, Shield Slam, Thunderclap, Shield Slam, but you know, that's kind of the idea, right? Like, very satisfying feel of Avatar, Thunderclap, every other global cooldown is a lot of fun. And then Thundersroar is just kind of easier to use, a little bit better than Champion Spear because of the shorter cooldown, good damage. kind of it, right? Standard setup over here in the left-hand tree. In the right-hand tree, this has obviously been redesigned in this patch, and it's just working really well, being able to run all of these execute talents, red right hand, and massacre, and heavy-handed. This adds a ton of damage in kind of execute situations, obviously, and being able to execute monsters that are below 35% health and have it cleave is really nice. You can still do priority damage on like a target that you're trying to finish off as it's like whatever low health, about to run away or whatever. You can like kill that while still spreading a lot of cleave damage out to other targets in the pack. It does hit very hard. As much as I wanted sudden death to be good, it really just isn't as good as the consistent steady rage generation and damage output of Instigate. Like, I really do like sudden death a lot. I played around with it a lot, and ultimately I just found that Instigate was like a lot better. And I mean, so has the entire community, right? It just feels a lot better to go that direction. And since we are playing Mountain Thane, we're obviously taking Thunderlord. This has great synergy with Avatar and Unstoppable Force, just the whole way that you're hitting Thunderclap a lot. Some of the other big innovations in the tree from previous patches are Disrupting Shout. This is something that's like really easy to get your hands on now, and it feels really good being able to have this like, it's a 90-second cooldown, but that's kind of consistent for most of the AoE interrupts, but that is exactly what it is. It is a 14-yard range AoE interrupt. It lasts for 6 seconds. It's also useful as an AoE taunt, you know, kind of a dual purpose thing. Mostly use it for AoE interrupts, but 14-yard radius is like pretty good. I think that's better than Sigil of Silence, or at least very close in value. So that's really great. The addition of Whirling Blade as these random Ravager procs is so incredibly good. You just randomly will get a bunch of rage and a bit of extra damage. Sometimes it'll proc at range. You throw a throw weapon out at an enemy and it'll proc and like do some extra damage and give you a bunch of threat on a pack that's at range, and now you have no issues with threat. Like, that feels really good. It also just feels good to not have the big clumsy cooldown of Ravager to have to throw down in conjunction with everything else when you're kind of slammed up on GCDs at the start of a pull anyways. Now, one thing I like to do, and I don't really see a lot of other players doing this, is on Voidbound weeks, I will take a couple of points out. I'll take out the point in Rumbling Earth, and I'll drop Barbaric Training, and I'll take Wrecking Throw, and this does 500% increased damage to absorb shields. It already hits for about 1.5 million damage. It's instant. It's like a 45-second cooldown, so you'll basically have this up for every single time that Void Emissary comes out, and it just hits for like 10-20 million damage if it crits. So you will embarrass some DPS in your group when it comes to like looking at the damage dealt to the Void Emissary at the end of the run. You'll be able to like definitely point and laugh at some people with how much you absolutely crank through that Void Emissary shield. There are other places you can take advantage of this as well, but not anything nearly as like oppressive and persistent as the Void Emissary 1 week out of every month. So this is the raid talent setup. The main thing that you would swap around on the left-hand side of the tree is just you'd want to take Champion's Spear, and that's mainly for the crit damage bonus that you get out of Champion's Might, because you're usually like lusting on pull. You're getting like big damage bonus at the start of the pull. All your cooldowns are going to be up, obviously. This winds up being like quite a lot better for burst damage in that specific raid situation, whereas Thunder Soror is really more just like constant, consistent AoE damage in Mythic Plus. That's kind of that's the majority of what's going on here in the left-hand side of the tree. In the right-hand side, you don't really need Last Stand and Thunderlord. I mean, you can take them. You can absolutely just run the Mythic Plus setup if you're feeling like, I don't know, nervous about staying alive in raid. You can just run that setup in Mythic Plus setup in raid. You'll be tanky. It'll be fine. But if you want to max your damage a little bit, then dropping Last Stand and Thunderlord and taking Sudden Death, getting a little bit more damage, also taking Blood Surge, being able to get a little bit more rage generation as well. This will definitely result in more damage in the raid, and you're still going to be incredibly tanky because you're on a Protection Warrior. Alright, now let's talk a little bit about the Warrior rotation. So it's still pretty simple. Ultimately, you want to use Shield Slam and Thunderclap as much as you can. You want to keep those skills both on cooldown all the time, and you want to maintain Shield Block the entire time you're tanking. None of that's really changed, right? That's pretty much all the same as it always has been. And you always want to use Avatar and Demoralizing Shout as much as you can to maximize your damage, since Avatar is a pretty big offensive cooldown, and Demoralizing Shout is a big offensive cooldown thanks to Booming Voice. The only times you wouldn't want to use these is if there's like about to be a boss transition in a raid fight, or in a Mythic Plus boss fight for that matter, where some situation where you wouldn't be able to do damage, or a fight's about to end, pull's about to end, you want to hold it for the start of the next pull, that makes sense as well. And the same goes for Thunderous Roar, or Champion Spear, or Shield Charge. If you're not right at a spot where you want to hold it for a few seconds for some reason, basically send it the moment it comes up, unless, again, Avatar is about to come up, then wait, layer it together. That's kind of the skill component to Warrior. It's a lot easier to say than it is to do, is waiting to hold, like holding an offensive cooldown to layer it in conjunction with another offensive cooldown. It's something you'll get comfortable with over time, but it's kind of important for maximizing your damage and making yourself have good rage generation. And on the subject of rage generation, you do want to generate as much rage as you can and spend it on shield block and ignore pain as much as you need to stay alive, and then anything else that's left over you either want to use on execute if an enemy is in execute range, or on revenge if you're just kind of cleaving stuff in AoE, or if nothing's executable. As for defensive cooldowns, use them when you feel like you need them, use them appropriately if you're about to take a bunch of damage. Press shield wall. If you suddenly drop low, hit last stand, kind of makes sense. Using Rallying Cry as a group cooldown is obviously good and kind of the preferred approach, but I've used it as a personal defensive cooldown a bunch of times and it's saved my life a lot, so don't be scared to just do that if you need to. Alright, now let's talk a little bit about stats and gear. So in terms of your preferred secondary stats, haste is going to be the most important, crit is second. Crit is really good for damage output and damage reduction in Mythic Plus, any situation where you're AoE tanking. Versatility and mastery are not bad though. You kind of want all three of those stats that aren't haste, but you really want haste the most. In terms of pieces of gear to craft, I really think the best thing you can do in terms of crafting is making yourself a weapon and a shield. Those are really like the best things you can go after. I still have some old bracers on this character with Woven Dawn Thread for crit, and then I have Woven Dawn Thread for crit on my shield. Ascendancy or Ascendance as a weapon option is also fine. You can do that, and then the bonus that increases Nerubian bonuses by 100%, that works just fine, but I kind of prefer the steady crit that's, it's only there when you're above 80% health, which is like 99% of the time on a warrior you're above 80% health, so this is just like a huge crit bonus. I prefer that to getting random stats out of Ascension, but, either one can work. Alright, that pretty much covers it. Warrior is so much fun right now. The damage output is great, it's simple and fast and clean, and it just feels really good to play. Probably the most fun tank in the game, I think. Maybe the best, definitely in the top 2 or 3. Should you play it? Absolutely. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us so we can keep making more WoW content, become a channel member or come boost our Discord. Thanks for watching. Bye.